Today on BRC and Friends, co-hosts Micky Scottbey Jones and Laura Mariko Cheifetz join me in welcoming David Magdael, CEO of David Magdael and Associates, a publicity and marketing company. Just in time for Oscar season, David will talk about so many great projects that are telling stories that the world needs to hear. Those will all be in the show notes. But most importantly, what it means for LGBTQI plus and BIPOC folks to make an impact in filmmaking and how one's community plays such an important role in shaping and forming who we are. You are going to learn a lot. Thanks for being here. Now sit back and enjoy episode 51 with David Magdael. My name is Bruce Reyes-Chow, and this is BRC and Friends. Each episode, I chat with activists, artists, academics, and adventurers to discuss politics, faith, pop culture, technology, and as you will discover, pretty much everything else that pops into our heads. This is basically an excuse for me to hang out with friends and colleagues and riff about things that matter. Welcome to BRC and Friends. Well, welcome all. As you have heard, we are joined today on BRC and Friends by David Magdael, who is a publicist and head honcho at David Magdael and Associates, which is a very fancy name, which we'll find out that David is very fancy, and we're so excited to have him here. We also have our co-hosts, Micky and Laura, who are with us, and you have met earlier episodes. But before we dive in and get to know David a little bit, we want to introduce ourselves. So quickly, we'll just go around, and if we could introduce your name so that folks understand pronunciations, how you like your names pronounced, pronouns if you like, and then let's be really super cheesy. What's one thing that's made your spirit sing in the last week? I need to hear what are making people's spirit sing. I'll go first, and then I'll call on somebody. So I'm Bruce Reyes-Chow. I use he, him pronouns. So one thing that's made my spirit sing is my two youngest children are home for spring break, and they are just funny. I've turned into the old parent that just watches their kids interact. And I alternate from being weepy and laughing, and that I've needed that this week. And so that's one thing that's made my spirit sing. Micky, I'd invite you to introduce yourself.
All right. Micky Scottbey Jones, she, her. Oh, something that has made me sing this week is probably, maybe this is another like old people thing. Wow, we are just going to date ourselves with this. So I'm preparing to go out of town, and I bought a new pill bottle. I did. In fact, I bought two. They're very cute. It's like this black plastic like cylinder, and you open it up, and then it has these little round ones for each day that are different colors, rainbow colors, right? Because queer. And then like they have an AM and a PM side, and you like slide the little circle into the cylinder, and then you can close it up. And it has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I had to have two because sometimes I'm gone longer than a week. It's so cute. And I'm like super excited. And it's all for vitamins, because the number of vitamins I take to keep this body running at this age and with the current conditions of both the world and my physical body and mental state is a lot. So it's worth it to have an exceedingly cute rainbow pill bottle. That's what made me happy this week.
You go. There you go. Yes. Wow. Yes. This podcast done 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure that would have not been on our list, but whatever. This is who we are.
Here we are.
Us. Here we are.
We emerge.
Laura
Mariko Cheifetz. I use pronouns she, her, and hers. If you can't pronounce my name on the first go, you literally do not have to make a comment about it. You can just call me Laura. Are we allowed to talk about menstruation on this particular?
Allowed.
Okay. It was either like I talk about something wholesome at work, and I had so many things that made my heart sing this week, which is very excellent. But one of them is that I did find out that since apparently I'm still saddled with this particular biological process, and despite my wishing it would go away, it hasn't. I found out that my HSA or like FSA covers the cost of period supplies, right?
Ooh.
And I am going to try the period underwear because I just cannot any longer with my current stuff.
It's a great investment. I have used those. Now I don't worry about that.
Okay.
But yes.
I'm very excited. If you don't want to use that, what did make my heart sing also this week was I went and visited a campus ministry in Georgia, and it was my first outing travel thing for work. And the students at the campus ministry just asked the freaking best questions. I went and preached, and they always respond during the service, and they asked really great questions. And I was like, man,
Awesome.
This is so great.
The breadth of what we cover on this show is pretty amazing.
I want you to have options in the editing.
So, David, if you were worried about what you might bring here, that like we've dispelled all that hopefully right away. David, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
I am David Magdael. I don't really have pronouns, but if I had to have them, it'd be he, him, I guess. I'm from that generation. It's like, just call me, call me David. And I'm like you, Laura, having the last name like Magdael. So I'm Filipino and Tagalog would be Magdael, right? So when I was younger, I would try to say that like in like first grade or something. And they would always say, oh, McDonald. I'm like, oh. So it became Magdael the rest of my life. So it's fine, and I will own that. What made me sing this week? It's just been a crazy time, which I live for anyway in the work that I do, doing film publicity and marketing and that. And we've had 4 films that got to the nomination phase, which is like pretty exciting. And then I was at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, with 3 films that are world premiering. One is called Bad Axe, named after Bad Axe, Michigan. The other one is called Omiyari, a song film from Kishibashi. And then the other one was Hidden Kingdom. What made me sing this week was and I took a step back and I looked at the 3 projects that we have and are they interrelated? And the interrelated part was all of them were Asian Pacific American filmmakers. Mm-hmm. It wasn't by design, but it was what, the universe threw at me. And I said, oh, hell yes, because and Bruce knows this, that I've been a big proponent of making sure that our stories are being told by our people. Because I don't think our people, when I say our people, the Asian Pacific American community, art and film is not within our community, has been not supported. But then we have these new people that are coming through. This one film in particular called Bad Axe is directed, produced, and edited by this young filmmaker, David Siv. He is of Cambodian-Mexican descent. His father came over 43 years ago when they escaped the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia with his 6 brothers and sisters and the mom. The story is about how this one family in Bad Axe, Michigan, which is a rural community outside of, Detroit and all the major cities, and how this family has been surviving in the last 2 years, given how do they survive owning a bar restaurant? How do they keep their families safe? How do they support other groups like Black Lives Matter in an area that's very heavily Trump and with a lot of white supremacy? So the film really captures this moment. It's really a time capsule. And just being in the room for the first responders, that came to the film in Austin, 209 seats. We had all but 9 seats that were sold. And you could feel the emotion from the people in the theater. And at the end, the standing ovation that they got, and it was just prolonged until they brought the family, and they brought the whole family out on there. It was just amazing. But the biggest thing was meeting the father. His name is Chun, C-H-U-N, and him just telling his story about how he and his mother left Cambodia at that time. They had to get out. The father had left, but they never seen him. I think he had passed. I think he got killed. And so they just had to make a run for their lives. And they ended up in Bad Axe, Michigan. Then he comes to Bad Axe. He's trying to make it work. He meets Reyes-Chow, this Mexican-American woman, and they marry and have these children that are raised there. They tried to open a donut store. That kind of failed. And then they opened up a bar and restaurant. But in the meantime, he's teaching martial arts, and he's doing everything that he can. In one of our meetings that we had when we got to meet each other outside of being on Zoom, he talked about how sorry he felt for his kids that he raised, that he didn't have time to love them, but he was too busy trying to teach them how to survive, teach them because he had come from where survival was the key. And he just kind of apologized. He was, I'm just sorry that I couldn't give you the love that you guys deserved. Now that I have these 2 granddaughters, they're going to get all my love, the stuff that I couldn't give to you. So I had to remind him. I said, don't you understand? I said, don't belittle yourself. I said, through teaching, it's a basis of love. And that just came to, and then he started to cry. And the wife, she's up and she goes, see, I told you. And so it's moments like that in the job that I have, that I live for. And it underscores for me why I do what I do, working in the documentary space, doing PR and marketing. I get to be around people who have allowed us to see their lives in 90 minutes on the big screen, who've opened up their lives and they're telling their story. The other film that we have there is Omiyari, a song from Kishibashi. Kishibashi is this musician. I don't know. I've never known him, but this producer, you know him, Laura? I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I didn't know him until the producer, who's a friend of mine, came to me. He goes, Dave, I got this film, and this guy's amazing. He's my favorite artist in all the world. Will you take a look at it? And he's like a violinist, guitarist, songwriter. He was commissioned to do a piece in honor of the Japanese-American people who were interned in World War II. And you see him through this film go through his own kind of reckoning as to what that is, because his parents were immigrants from Japan. They moved to Athens, Georgia, and he was born and raised in Athens, Georgia. So the sensibility, it wasn't sure if he had a sensibility of being Japanese or Japanese American, but you can see him through this project start to unfold, things that he didn't know, things that were not taught. We are not taught in schools, now they call it, what, critical race theory. Duh, it's called American history. Don't get it twisted, people, So he's, he himself goes through this thing, and meeting him and his producers and the people who did not know what happened in World War II. Mostly these are non-Asian folks who got involved, and they were just like, blown away. And you can see when we screened the film at this large venue and it was packed, you could see a lot of the non-Asian people who were like seeing for the first time what that is. They've heard about it, right? It's like some people I heard about the Holocaust, but I don't know what that is. And so it's kind of like, that's what you could see them going through this transformation. Again, is another thing that underscored the power of what film can do to like bridge gaps or like bridge communities and just really set up dialogue and communication. And then the third piece that we had is a piece called Hidden Kingdom. And it's really, they pitched it to me as a short project, but it's really an episodic. They follow 5 dancers out of New York, and they're like 5 short films that are like 7 minutes, 6 minutes long that fit into this. And they film them through utilizing movement as an expression of their lives and their art. And it's amazing because it's all BIPOC. I hate that word, but I guess that's the word we use, right? BIPOC artists, that they lifted up and gave them their 6 minutes to do their dance, their art, but talk about what their communication. And they're from Haiti, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and they're from different boroughs in New York City. So and these 2 women, they go by the name of Sacred Pact. It's Sunny Lee and Jacqueline Davis. They're amazing, and you could just feel the artistry that the creativity. I'm not that creative person, but I'm the audience guy, so I have the best job in all the world, because I get to be the one that reacts to what they throw at me, right? And I can share that with other people, even like I'm sharing with you, and you're gonna be like, oh, I want to see that. But these women, they're younger. I would say they're definitely less than 40, probably younger than 35, but you just feel the energy of what they're trying to do. And they're trying to sell this as an episodic kind of a series, and hopefully someone will pick it up. And they did a beautiful job across the board. And so it inspires me to see all this talent from all these people. And I'll be honest, when they're people of color, or LGBTQ, or people who always felt like marginalized, it just kind of like this makes me feel good inside about what we do and what we do. So long answer to a short. It was this whole week in my life that just really made me stand up, because I was like flitting back and forth. I was in Austin on Friday, LA on Saturday for the DGA Awards, because we had one of our filmmakers did a film. She got nominated for a DGA and an Oscar. But just to be around that presence and watch their lives change, this is what I was meant to do. This was the calling. Bruce, I know because this is like, when you hear the calling, you got to answer. There are a lot of us go through life, we don't hear the calling. We're sitting there trying to figure it out when it's always been knocking on your head. So, but it took a life-changing experience that said, okay, wake up, what you going to do? So I wrote in my little diary, I looked back at it the other day, this journal I had a long time ago. And it's like, I wrote, life began at 32. And that's when my life I jumped into that space. And my mother became my best friend, Bruce, at age 32. I went to her and I said, all right, my husband's dying of AIDS, HIV, back in, it was 1987. What do I do? I'm saying goodbye to my partner. And she said, my mother lost her husband when she was 43. And we were 11, my brother was 15, and my sister was probably 8. And I thought, how does this woman do this at age 43 with 3 kids who are going to go through hormonal changes? And she's by herself. So I went to her and I said, what do you do? And she goes, and I said, this is my situation. She goes, I feel for you. She said, but I don't know. She says, David, my faith and my family. She had brothers and sisters that just, came for her, and we all became one big family, but it was her faith. And it's funny because I said, well, you don't have the answer. And she goes, no. She goes, I never had the answers. All I did was just do what I was taught by my mother. And she said, you guys always put me on a pedestal. And she goes, you guys need to stop that. And I said, okay, I'm good with that. So, and then we became best friends, for how many years later. And then, when she passed, it was really sad. But I got that gift, of being best friends with my mother, who had been my parent, and it just shifted. And when it shifted as an adult person, you're still a child, right? Because she's always going to be your mom. But as an adult child, you kind of that relationship. I know you have that same relationship, Bruce, with your mom, because your mom is fantastic.
No, that's one word. That is one word. Yes.
but but you have these people, and look, I'm just as the elder in this room, because I know I'm the eldest. There are people that will come into your life that will definitely, make that impact. Even while my mother's gone and she's gone on, but I saw also too that she made an impact, not just with us, but with folks like everywhere. She was active in the presbytery. I couldn't even go to a church in another city without something like, how they make you stand up at Presbyterian church, like, hi, I'm David Magdael. I'm from that. And like, oh my God, you're Angel's kid. And I was like, oh Lord have mercy. I had to call like, why do I have to deal with that? And she was like cracking me up. But that's who she was, right? I mean, that's who she was, because she was like, that was her leader. And the good thing was, she instilled that, I think, in all of us. And every day I have that talk with her, because it's like you were saying, Mickey, it's crazy right now. This stuff is crazy, Anyway, I talk too much, so let me back and be quiet. But I guess it's a podcast. That's what we're supposed to do, right?
Talking is allowed.
Yeah, talking is allowed.
You're in the right space. You're in the right space, and you are in the right business.
Yeah, I mean, that was what inspired me today. Was just like life inspired me this week. That was that moment, because I was able to stop and see it. It was right there. It wasn't I had to search for it. It's interesting. I meet a lot of young people right now who are like, oh, I'm searching for what my thing is. I said, girl, it's always been there. I said, just open yourself up to receiving. We're always blocking the blessings, right? We're the ones. I know. That's how I am. I like, oh, I'm going to do it my way, when, the universe and Jesus, whoever you believe in, tells you like, no, you're going to go this way. But so you try to go that way, like, I told you. And then you have to go back to square one. Like, dang. But in my years now, I just listen. Okay, I got that.
For folks who are just meeting David, definitely follow him on Instagram, because then you can just feel jealous that you like. I watch, because I know you, so it's a little different. But it's like you're here, and then you're at South by Southwest, and then you're all this. I mean, I'm sure it looks glamorous. It looks more glamorous for us, but I know you're doing tons of work.
We work hard and we play hard, and I've got an amazing team, people that work together with us, because that's the thing. If you work hard, we can play hard too. We eat. That's one thing you will see if you follow me. You will see food. You will see food. We came back from Austin, Texas Wednesday, and yesterday I'm like, I am craving like real Chinese food. So we went and we just like got everything on the menu. Everything. It was great. It was really good. But it is, Bruce, what you say. I am blessed and I am grateful, because I have a job that I wake up to that I don't get them like, ugh. I get them like, okay, what are we going to do? And for me, there's never enough hours in a day, because I want to do everything. And that's my biggest problem, is that I can't do everything, and I have to learn more to delegate and just to take a step back and breathe. It's time to just like, sometimes you just have to let breathe. Well, you guys are all not here because you all know, right? So I'm not telling you anything new, but it's nice to know that you have comrades who understand what you're going through, and, we'll meet here for 45 minutes, we'll go on, but hopefully we made an impact. And like I said, and I've been doing this now, and I never thought I was going to have my own business. I never thought I was going to go to the Oscars. I saw the Oscars for the first time in second grade, right? My mother let me stay up, and I wrote everything down of all the categories. I don't know what I was doing. I was kind of this geeky kid. And I was like, let me just write. I wrote everything down on the back. I remember exactly the back. Do you remember when you go to JCPenney's and you got T-shirts? And they have like the cardboard inserts.
Oh,
that's where I wrote all the art, all the winners on, and I took that with me to school. And in the middle of school, I would like peek at it, and like, oh, that's so cool, stuff like that. But I remember that. And the first time I went to the Oscars, it was like standing there, like, damn, how did this Filipino boy from South Stockton, 95206, get here? And then I look at what I've been doing for the last 20 years, and still there. And it's like, and I'm just like blessed to do that. I think this is what I've been meant to do, but didn't know that. I went to school at Davis in Berkeley, got a degree in education. I thought I was going to teach the world, was going to go back to Stockton, bring all the kids up out of South Stockton. We're all going to go to college together. And then I woke up. People have to want to go with you before you can take them with you. Right. And so it's like, okay, so there was something else meant for me to do. And being in this space where I am now, when I look back at everything that I've done work-wise, it's all led up to where I am now. And it's great to look back at that. Oh, and I'm a proud 66-year-old man. I'm a card-carrying Medicare person, and I wear it, so I don't care. It's like, but you'll get to a certain age. When I turn 50, it's like, I don't have to do that no more. Someone else can do that. That was that, and that's the benefits of getting old. It's like, I don't have to do that no more. I don't have to listen to you. And pandemic, I don't know how you all feel, but pandemic and lockdown, it made me, it was like another reckoning for yourselves, or like, who do we need in our lives anymore? What relationships are draining, and who do we need to throw out? And you can do it nicely. Like, I love you, but no.
You gotta go. Gotta go.
Let's talk a little about what you're. Well, let me ask Mickey or Laura. Do you have any questions for David at this point? Do you have anything? There's a lot. This is why I invited David to be out here, because there's just so much good stuff.
Laura has questions.
Go for it, Laura.
Well, I'm just wondering if there are stories out there that you feel like could be told, but you haven't seen them yet.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't. It's interesting because where I work, they usually come to me and like, "Hey, I've got this film. We're done with. We got this. We might need your help." I'm trying to. That's a good. Let me think on that, because I don't have an answer for that. But one example though that came to me 2 years ago. Oh, maybe two. One example that came to me recently is a film called "Like a Rolling Stone: The Life and Times of Ben Fong Torres." Ben Fong Torres, for those you don't know, is a journalist, Asian American journalist that was in the Bay Area, but he was the first music editor for Rolling Stone magazine in the late 60s and 70s, whom every rock star wanted him to interview him. It was important for them. But for us, he was always that unsung hero. I know for me, in 11th grade, reading Rolling Stone on the bus to Berkeley, and you would see his byline, I thought, ooh, look. And it was Ben Fong Torres. He's Mexican Chinese, is what I thought, right? But there's a whole story behind all that. But the fact that was possible, that there was someone that was doing that. He was like interviewing people from Michael Jackson, Bob Dylan, Marvin Gaye, the Jefferson, Starship, everybody on there. And so when this woman came to me, Suzanne Jo Kai, filmmaker that I've known for a long time, she was always that person that was like going to every seminar on documentary filmmaking. But we always wondered what she was going to do. She made short films. She's from the Bay Area too. So she goes, I finished my movie, and it took her 12 years. But it was that story that she brought to the table. So that was one I thought, here's someone who's basically that people need to know. All the other people at Rolling Stone got their props, but here's this Asian American guy that didn't. But the funny thing is, Bruce, is that he was at San Francisco State the same time your mom was. He was the editor for the student newspaper when all the uprising and the change in, when the civil rights movement was hitting SF State. He was the newspaper editor for that. And then he was also doing community work in addition to Rolling Stone in Chinatown and Chinatown, San Francisco, as the community newspaper. And I can't think of what the name of it is. So anyway, so that movie came to us, and it went to Tribeca last year. And it's amazing. So it will be making the circuit. So kind of FYI, I think it's coming to San Francisco. I don't know where you guys are all at, but it will be there. But it's just, you get to, and we got to work with him during Tribeca. That was like, you just feel like, when you meet people that you've always like thought about, like, oh, I want to be like him. It was really, I fanboyed him on the first Zoom call. And I said, oh my God, I love you. I'm sure the eye roll. But anyway, but then this other film too is this film called Mr. Soul. It's on HBO Max right now. It's Mr. Soul with an exclamation point. The director that had been working on that for 10 years. And it's this amazing story about this, her uncle, who's the openly gay Black man back in the 60s and 70s. And he had his own TV, I would say, I don't know if it's a variety show or a talk show called Soul, Soul with an exclamation point. And what he did was he brought Black culture, Black life, Black art, Black love to the world every Wednesday at 10 p.m. on whatever PBS station you're seeing. So when she came to me and said, damn, I know that television show because I discovered it in 7th grade. And, when she said, this is what I'm working on, and it's amazing. And she got everything, and it's him. It's on HBO Max right now. But his life, and he was openly gay. He had like James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni sitting in a conversation together, talking about that. And it was funny because we worked on it at Tribeca in 2018, and she was having a hard time getting distribution. And everyone was like, "Oh, it's just like I'm Not Your Negro." I was like, "No, it's not." And you get these people that are gatekeepers in these different distribution places who don't understand because they don't understand. And that was the other thing that pandemic taught us too, is like we were sitting there 2020 when all this was going on, and we were locked down, and then George Floyd dies or is murdered. And you're going like, what is it what can we do? And then everybody was at home online watching, content, because we couldn't go out to the movie. Everything was shut down. And so I turned to one of my colleagues here in my office, Vince Johnson, and I said, what can we do? And we knew people watching stuff online. I said, what if we start our own streaming platform, like virtual screen, that we can do? Because the film is really good. It got great reviews out of Tribeca, and we knew we had some stories waiting in the wings. And just that moment, when people were trying to understand what should we do to stand up against all this that's going on, I said, this is where we need to hear. His name is Ellis Hazlip. We need to hear from him and through this movie about what he did when change was starting to happen. And what he did was he brought this show together so that, people can know about what this was going on in the Black. But he introduced the world to like Earth, Wind, and Fire. He had Gladys Knight. He had Patti LaBelle. He had Dick Gregory. He had Sidney Poitier together with Harry Belafonte. So people, and then he had the mother of George Jackson, who was murdered. He was the Black Panther, and then he had the mother on shortly thereafter. But it was a voice for the community, and so this is what he did, during change. And when he actually impacted that, I said. So I called the filmmaker up and I said, "Hey, Melissa Hazlip," and I said, "What are you doing?" This? She goes, "Oh," and she started like complaining, like, "I don't have a distributor." I said, "We knew we were going to have PBS the following year." I said, "Well, would you take a ride with us? We're going to start this platform. We'll do it on Eventive. We know people in the independent theater world, like in New York, in LA, San Francisco, we can go to them. The movie's really good, and see if they will take us on as part of their Screening at Home series. So people go on, you can buy it for $12. And they made it feasible. So that way it was a financial deal that everybody won. The theater won, the filmmaker won. And she said, yeah. I said, let's just try it. I said, we'll pay for the platform. That'll be part of what we're going to do. And then we'll push it out and we'll do all the press on it. So we called the people in New York, which was the Maisels Theater, and they said yes. I'm friends with the fellow that runs the Lemley Theater chain here in LA, and they said yes. And then Vince knew the people over at the Roxy Cinema over in San Francisco, and they said yes. So we started to go. We said August 28th is the date we're going to go. And then we started to push it out there. Slowly but surely, these other independent film theaters started calling it, we want to put that on our platform. And then Alamo Drafthouse, they said, we want to put that on our Alamo at Home too. And then so we opened on the 28th. We're going to go. I said, look, by hell or high water, we got 3 theaters, and they're pretty notable. We can get reviews in the different cities. August 20th was our date. We had 62 theaters that had come on board by then.
Wow.
Mid-September, we had 98. Did we make a lot of money? No, but we made a lot of money. You know what I mean? But you got the word out. We had an amazing feature in the New York Times when it opened, on that platform back in August. And then it went on to like the New Yorker discovered. Everyone started to discover Ellis Hazlip. And it was just something I thought I felt like people were out protesting. And where I live in downtown LA, every day the BLM movement would come through where I live. And, I thought, with COVID and my age and having diabetes and high blood pressure, I'm like, I don't think I need to jump out there with that. I'd like to, but I could hear my mom going like, I don't know. This would be like, she's like, I could hear like, don't make me come snatch you outside and bring you back in. So I thought, what can we do? This is what we can do, right? We can create our own platform so we can at least bring that message. So that, because that's the other thing too. I think back, everybody in this time period, you're going to ask yourself, let's say 4 years from now, what did I do during pandemic? At least I can say that's what I did. This is what we did. This is what we did. And what I'm finding with filmmakers and creators, they were making movies, trying to, under COVID. And so it was a time when you just did what you needed to do, but we were compelled to do something. And that's the other thing too. When I talk to young people, I said, this is your revolution. This is your change. If you don't take this by the hand and make it yours, then you're going to be missing out. And you won't have yourself to blame 15, 20 years from now. But change takes time, but it's there, and you can mobilize that. Anyway, yeah, I got preaching, but no, but I'm just saying, if anything, that's what pandemic taught us, was really, what can you do what you need to do. So we're able to start that platform and to give that voice. And now we use it for, like, we'll do talkbacks where people can come in and we'll have filmmaker to filmmaker talkbacks in there and just kind of set that up so we have that. Yeah.
Oh man, there's so much good stuff. Micky, do you have any questions? I can move on, but do you have any?
Yeah. I have a question as a concerned mother.
Okay.
So my daughter will be graduating from Middle Tennessee State University this May, and she has been studying film, which, super practical. Great, you're gonna get a job. But I love my child very much. She is brilliant and beautiful, and I think the most amazing thing. I mean, as well as her,
as you should.
Right? Yeah. Right. Exactly. So she wants to be a screenwriter. And she, and she's really interested in documentaries. So, like, hearing you talk about documentaries, hearing you talk about people actually getting their movies out is really great. And you're like, this filmmaker worked on a film for 10 years. And I'm like, oh my God, she's never going to eat. So it's like both panic and like this beautiful world of film that can change people's lives. And I have collaborated with my friend Gareth Higgins on this really beautiful festival that we do together called Movies and Meaning. And we just screen the most beautiful movies. I mean, I'm like not a movie person, but like if somebody picks a great movie for me, I'll sit down and watch it. And like, so I love being with Gareth because he shows me all these movies I would never watch. And every year at the festival, I'm exposed to all these glorious movies, right? So just as a mom, I'm like, and hearing you talk about your mom supporting you too, I'm like, how do I support this artistic child who wants to be in film? How, like, I think so many of us have children who are artists, many people who in this time, that is how they're activating, right? It is how they're saying, this is what I'm going to do to change the world, is I am going to make art. I'm going to get out my camera, right? All of us now have the ability to make a film in our pocket, right? So these young people are my sons make music. Like, literally, my 16-year-old is on Spotify right now because he can make music in his bedroom. And it's just like, like, she's in these classes where she feels like she's not getting a realistic, like they're telling her how to go out and meet with people. And she's like, they're teaching me to be a corporate shrill. And I'm like, baby, I know you just want to go out there and do your thing. And so I'm just like, how do we encourage, all these sweet little activist spirits who are trying to change the world with their film and their music and all the things. And there are the realities of the world that we're trying to navigate. And particularly as people of color, and otherwise marginalized folks, like, they have to kind of make a way in this world, So I don't know. I just thought maybe if you, with all you've seen with these filmmakers that you worked with who have, been trying to get their precious films out into the world for years. And it's like, they're told things like, oh, well, we just had I Am Not Your Negro. We don't need your film, right? Like, how do they navigate this kind of thing?
You raised your daughter, right? How old is she? 20.
Mm-hmm. She is 21, almost 22.
Yeah. I mean, so you've had 21 years of training with her.
Yeah.
Now it's her time. And the only thing you can do is, like, just be as supportive as you can, but also you can still give her the reality check. Like, what do you need to do? But for her personally, as an artist, it's really, if she can find her collective, the people that will support her artistically and can feed off of those, their creativity,
Mm-hmm.
together, they can, like, really try to make something. So after she's in Tennessee right now,
yeah,
where is she going next after she graduates?
Well, that's up in the air. Atlanta has a lot of film stuff now. So, I think she's really been thinking about that as a next step, kind of staying in the South and going towards Atlanta. She's also going to learn how to code. So she's got a backup plan of like, okay, let me work in coding, because, you can actually make quite a bit of money doing that while she, does her lets her film career happen,
Has she written scripts and things? It sounds like she wants to stay in the narrative side of things, or?
She's written stuff in school. But that's where I'm like, I'm not seeing, has she written stuff? She's kind of dabbling in everything. Like she's making costumes and she's helping other people with their films, so I think she's just in that kind of just let it all flow.
Trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? So just last week when I was at South by, I did a mentor session. One of the women that came through, and it's like round tables. You get 15 minutes with each person. And she came in. She's great. She presented really well. She goes, well, I want to do this. I have a play and I'm going to make this movie, and the movie's going to be about the play. And then I got a podcast, so I can turn the podcast into a series. And I just kept listening. I said, okay, but what do you want to do first? I said, because that's where you have to pick. I said, there is no wrong answer. Pick the one that you think is where you want to put your heart and soul into for right now. Because what you're going to be is distracted. And it's really hard to give your attention to 4 projects that you think are all important, but pick the one. And I said, to me, just listening to you, sounds like you need to write that play and get that play produced now. That seems like the basis of where everything else is going to do. And you haven't shown it to anybody. You're like, oh, I'm going to get this theater, in the Bronx, and I'm going to do this. And I said, you know what? Stop talking about it. Let's just do it. Mm-hmm. I have an 80-20 rule, and it's slowly turning to 85-15, that 80% of the world talks about it, 20% do it. Now it's like 85-15. I said, you want to be about part of the 20, because those are the ones that are getting projects done. A lot of times I'll get people that come to me like, hey, Dave, I need some publicity I've got this project that's just about getting started. And, can you get a press release into Variety? And I said, and I'm that guy that's not the fan, like, yeah, let's go do it. I was like, why don't we get it finished? Because you don't want to be around people like, hey, I read about you in Variety like 5 years ago. Where's that project? I'd rather hit people like Marcus Smith is now going to be premiering his film at Tribeca. And then people were like, whoa, where'd that come from? We didn't know. Great. You weren't supposed to know till now. Because you don't want, and also too, the things I'm concerned about with people putting things early, unless they need a press release because it's going to help bring in financiers, is if you put your idea out there, someone else can snatch that up, make the short film about it, and your idea is gone. Then I was like, oh yeah, someone else did that. We already seen that. We're turning that down. So I want, I think people need to be strategic. And so I'm always open for like people to ask me questions, because, we'll just give you the hard truth. Like, figure, and it's hard because you're sitting there and she's about to graduate. Do you guys remember when you were about to graduate college? I remember going like, it was really weird. It was January. And I thought, shit, I'm going to be done, after 4 years at Davis come May. Like, what am I going to do? I said, I better go to graduate school because I'm not ready to go in the real world and get a job. Luckily, I got into School of Education. But even then, I was a telemarketer, calling people like, will you subscribe to this magazine? But it was just what you had to do, because I wasn't ready. I was ready, and then I had to jump out there. I wasn't prepared. I was always a student of life, I think, because I wasn't going to be a doctor or a lawyer, or I wasn't that. I didn't have that path. That was. But I think for your, with your daughter, I think, she should probably sit down and talk to a lot of people. It's going to be helpful if she has time to do internships. If she wants to go to Atlanta, see if she can, I don't know, a little bit, maybe, Tyler Perry's so huge there and he employs a lot of people. Everybody's there filming, but he has that studio that's there, that maybe there's a way that she can come in. A lot of productions are going on. She should, if she wants to try that, then she can see what the realness is. Because then she might get in like, oh, I don't think I really like that. It's like, when I talk to people in film, it's like, I'm trying to build more LGBTQ BIPOC folks to get into publicity and film publicity, because I don't have enough. There's a lot of, and I want to see more of them, because now is the time. There's so much product that's coming out, content creators. So it's not just film and TV, but you got streamers, you got everything else that's coming out, and they're looking for people that are experts in that profession who may have that perspective that maybe non-BIPOC folks, don't have. And so you bring something to the table, because I always like, oh, I'm not white enough to get in. No, you don't go that way. It's like you bring something extra into that, because we've always had to be extra, right? Folks told you can't come in the front door. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll come through the back door, but we're going to get inside. I can yell and scream in front of you, but you're not going to let me in. So, let me just figure that out. And maybe you might know the security guard at the back door, like, come on in, but as people who have been, on the out, we've always had to figure it out. And for people who've always said yes, this is an awakening for them, because they're getting told no. And they're screaming the loudest. They're screaming because they think, and then they're like, oh, they're afraid they're going to be the minority. There's no minority majority. It's just you need to open the door to open up that circle, right? Because that's right. We're going to be like survive together. Because we built on a history of haves and have not, whites not blacks, or whatever it is. It's just getting rid of that history is taking some time. I mean, in order. Someone asked me. So last year I worked on 3 films that were amazing. The Neutral Ground, which is about the takedown of the statues in the South. It's on PBS. Amazing film. This filmmaker has a reckoning with his own blackness because he's half Filipino, half black, but he never embraced his blackness until he got involved with taking the statues down in New Orleans. And you see in this film, he starts to, and even his father says, "You've never been black. You always wanted to be somebody else."
Wow.
It's a great, and he's a comedian plus a writer. It's really great. So The Neutral Ground. The other film we had was Unapologetic, and it's about these 2 women activists who are also LGBTQ, who are really raising awareness of all the people who are being murdered by Chicago police. It's an in-your-face, amazing documentary. It was too black for some people. Some certain critics were like, "Dave, I can't work on that." I'm like, that's why I thought, well, then I wish there was a counterpart to you that I could go to who would totally get it.
Yeah.
And that's where I see us missing, both on the journalism side, but also in the PR side. And then the other film is called Ferguson Rises. And it's this film, and it's a beautiful film about the killing of Michael Brown Jr. in Ferguson. The filmmaker sat on this for a while because he got the footage early on, right after the murder, and followed everything through. But there was another film that popped out at Sundance that called Whose Streets that was making the rounds early on. And so he came to me because I'm just trying to put this out, and it got into Tribeca, because it was still kind of pandemic-y. He was mostly on Tribeca Online, and he won the audience award for Tribeca Online. But the film is amazing because it takes you deep in the community of how everybody was impacted. And it was like unfortunately, one of the first, murders that had to get people going. That Trayvon Martin. I mean, you can go through the whole list. But I looked at those 3, and then this other film that's out now called Who We Are, a Chronicle of Racism in America. All 4 of those, and that one is about this one. He was a former ACLU lawyer in Seattle. Now he goes around they're kind of like TED Talks, but talking about how we have to end white supremacy in order to end racism. But all 4 of those exist like at the same time. And it's like, they're so amazing. And I think there's something that's going on where these are important. But I mean, Sony Pictures Classics picked that up, but I think it's going to go, if it hasn't shown on PBS, it's going to be coming through on one of those channels. But anyway, we're living in that time where these are important themes, that people are really feeling, and, people are trying to document. But, I think your daughter just needs to find, what's going to motivate her. Where's her passion?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to drive.
Yeah.
It's your passion writing. And there's a lot of people that are out there doing it. I can think of African-American women like Lena Waithe, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has her show on Showtime, which is Chi-Town. And then she's got like other things that she's writing, and she's also supporting a lot of other filmmakers. And then you got Issa Rae, with Insecure.
Oh, love Issa Rae.
Yes, love Issa.
But look what she did in terms of raising awareness in Inglewood, not Hollywood, but Inglewood, and changed what that person, and then also gave a lot of lift to African American artists that are here in Los Angeles who don't necessarily.
That's right.
That. And all of a sudden they became, I wouldn't say mainstream, but all of a sudden they were getting the attention, from everywhere else. But it was like through that one show, not only was she able to get the story up, but she also brought everybody with them.
That's
and then
right.
You've got Ava DuVernay. Ava DuVernay's doing whatever she's been doing, and she's always, bringing people through. And that's the other thing too. Ava and I have been friends for a long time when she was in the publicity world, and I was at an event that she was hosting, and I was sitting next to somebody else and someone else, and we were like sitting there, and we looked around the room, and it was all the people of color who were working. They're finally getting there, getting creative. And then we looked at, Ava, and this is what she does, is like spreads it out to everybody, and it's like, everyone that's been marginalized, that's what they do over at Array. And the woman I was sitting next to, and she said, we own our own businesses. This is what we need to do. And I said, well, I don't tell nobody, but that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you have to live by example versus having to shout it out. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, so if I can bring people through who are from the communities that I want to lift up, or people that I want to see in the business. That's what I want to try to do.
Mhm.
And it's no diss to anybody else, but our people don't have those opportunities. And if I
Yeah.
can be the person that can provide that opportunity, then my work is good. Even if if
Awesome.
you don't stay and you go on, I had one fellow that I found through the Asian Film Festival came in and he goes, "Oh, I don't know." And he was fresh out of college. I don't know what I want to do. I said, "Well, you like film, so come work with us." I said, "I need an assistant, and we can see that." He was too good to be anybody's assistant. So I said, "Let's do it now." And now he's killing it as like the senior account executive at a impact producing outfit. And it's so great to watch. And he is a gay Latino man. But he had so much to offer, and he would always put us in check, and he'd always be like, "So, well, what about this?" He goes, "What about the lesbians? Or what about the Latinos?"
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what you need. You need
Yeah.
someone that's going to tell you. I always look for those people that are younger than 30, because I always want to know, what are the 8-year-olds saying across the playground over there? Because the 8-year-olds they're conspiring about what they're going to do next to get over to the big playground, right?
And they will tell you the truth.
They will tell you the truth. And they will,
That's for sure.
they'll be like, "We don't think this." Like, okay, but it's just like, the voice of youth, and I think your daughter, this is a really good time for her to jump in here, because these stories is what people are looking for. It may not show on the screen because everybody's trying to do Marvel, etc., and all the superheroes, but there is voice that's out there. I've seen, in the Asian American world, 2018 was a pivotal year for us because it was Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah, people in our community, some people didn't like it, but it opened doors.
Yeah.
And interesting thing too, and Bruce, you know this, that when the door opened, people who actually had talent came running through. People that were like wanting to hang out at the party and go to here and there. It's like people who actually been writing scripts and have been trying to get their. People are starting to see them. Funny thing though is Hollywood's going like, "Well, you're not Chinese." It's like, dude, you got to figure out. It's not just because that was Chinese or whatever it was. You have to like make it work, but you can, because there are opportunities there. There are also more people rising. It's still slow, but they're rising in the ranks of who can make things happen, who can greenlight things. And that's the people that are sitting at those tables. We're always having to remind them. It's like, you might feel like you're the only Asian person at the table, and you might feel, well, it's kind of tokenism. Use your tokenism. You're in the room.
Yeah.
It's like, you're in the room, so stop complaining like, "Oh, I don't want to be a token." Like, I want to be a token. Let me in there. They open the door, so sit there, but bring other people with you, so you're not the only person. But if we're always standing on the sideline, we're always going to be standing on the sideline. If we're always serving coffee, we're going to be serving coffee. But if you're sitting down there, but understand, if you're sitting there, bring other people through. Stop trying to act like the white man in the room, because that doesn't work. It won't ever work for you. That's why I try to tell people. It's like, well, I'm so afraid that I don't want to talk about the Asians because I don't want to be pigeonholed. They've already pigeonholed you.
Right.
They did already. So, they brought you because they can go and say, "Look how diverse we are," right?
Well, and maybe too, like, if you open the door, kick open the door, leave it open for other people, right? Maybe you've come through and you only get to do this certain thing, but it leaves it open for the next and the next and the next and the next. I'm like, I've been seeing ads for I think it's a horror movie called Uma, maybe, and it's like basically all in Asian.
Yes, with Sandra.
Yeah, it's an Asian cast, and I was thinking when I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen a horror movie that had an Asian lead.
I mean,
ever.
it's our jam.
I avoid horror movies, but still, I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in America, like, I know there are other, but in America, to have a largely American known actress, an Asian American actress being the lead, I was like, whoa. And a story that seems very Asian. I was just blown away. And then I was also like, I don't know that I've ever seen a horror movie. And it's like, that's not the pinnacle of success for an Asian woman to be the lead in a horror movie. But it's like, it should just be a thing, a normal thing.
Right.
And maybe that's because Crazy Rich Asians, which wasn't a horror movie. I mean, not really, so it's like, maybe to some people it was, but I thought it was fabulous, but it was a totally different genre. But it's like, if we had stayed in that one genre thinking only, okay, now these are what Asian films are. No, it opened up kind of American film in a particular way. And so, I hear what you're saying, like, have almost a greater vision what you come through and do may not be what other people come through and do. Like with Issa Rae, she started with a web series. Look, I was a huge fan of Awkward Black Girl. I watched every episode of that thing and never
Me
thought she
too.
was going
Me
to do
too.
what, Insecure, for God's sake. And, she's opened that door and she's brought people with her. And, and I think like helping young people or anybody, right? Even reminding myself, I don't have to do the biggest thing. Let me do something and focus on it and do it well and then see what happens. But I, like you were saying, David, I get really like, I get all over the place and I'm like, I should be doing this and this and this and this and this. And I don't get that one thing done that could be the thing that I can build on. So that that's speaking to me right now. Like, okay, focus.
But you know what? But
Awesome.
COVID took away our focus. During COVID, I was like, man, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm like, bing, 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 bing. And I thought,
brain fog, and
just because you were thinking about everything. And now we're dealing with war in Ukraine. I know, blah, blah, blah. We're complaining. But I think at the end of the day, you have to have the talent to walk through the door. You can't come in and try to bullshit your way because you will see you and you won't have that moment. That moment will be gone forever. And as everyone has said, you're only as good as your last project, whatever. And then someone says, wow, you work on the greatest movies. How do you pick your films? It's like, they have to speak to me. They have to make you cry, laugh, piss you off, something. And I always look for things like, well, has that story been told before? It's like, the Bad Axe film when it came to, it's like, nobody knows about Cambodian people living in the middle of Michigan. And it had so much heart. The other film you talked about before we came on was The Queen of Basketball. And that's nominated for a short documentary Oscar. Lucy Harris was this woman from Mississippi who was born and raised on her family were sharecroppers. It's on YouTube. It's on New York Times YouTube. If you watch it, 22 minutes. Shaquille O'Neal and now Steph Curry have come on as executive producers. It's a great film where she talks to the camera, talking about her own what she had to do in 1970 in the early, like 74 to 76, where because I just wanted to play basketball, and she giggles through the whole thing, and she's like, they just said, she's they call it dark and tall, and that's all. And then later on, when she started to play basketball, it's like dark and tall, throw her the ball, something like that. But she's been this unsung hero, and she just felt like she just wanted everyone to know what she had done. We screened it for her at Tribeca, and it was amazing. She never saw it before. Tribeca was outdoors last year, and all her kids were there, and the kids were like, wow, Mom, I didn't even know. We heard about you possibly that you were this, basketball person. We just laughed it off. And then we kept playing it, made it to the short list, and now it's in the nomination. Prior to the nomination, we were about to do an interview with her, with a USC documentary professor. And the day before the interview, we got the call that she had passed away. It was like January 28th, which was like a week before the nomination came out. And so everyone was just kind of like, damn, she was only 66, but she passed away. So then all of us on the film team, we said, well, we have to make sure her legacy lives. It's not just about the Oscar. I think the Oscar will help lift that up. New York Times has come in as partners really strong. We had an angel investor that came in really strong. That's why you see the billboards. And billboards for a short documentary, that's unheard of. We don't have Netflix. But her story is what really pulls it all through, because her story, and it's hopefully going to be inspiring. So anyway, I don't know when you're going to hear this.
Cool. Yep, we're gonna. Yeah, we'll. So I hate to cut this off because I feel
it's 11:05.
Even early, David's like, how are we going to make that much time? Well, look at it. Here we go. And you left us, this is super positive. Like, you left us speechless, because I think we're all just like listening to you. So I so appreciate you coming. I mean, this has been so, I didn't even get to like Oscar stuff. So David gets to vote and all those kind of things.
Voting this week. And then, what happened?
We lost Laura. That's all right. She's mad. She's mad because I didn't get to the Oscars.
We're voting. Voting is open now, and the ceremony's next Sunday. And I have a ticket to go, but I'll be on the carpet anyway early on, because we're walking all over. So I have 4 films. Well, we got 4 to the Oscars. We're working on 3 right now. ASCENSION, which is about China, amazing film on Paramount Plus if you haven't seen it. This young woman, Chinese-American woman, put this together, edited herself. But she goes to 51 cities around in China with her crew, and it's really talking about how people there are chasing the Chinese dream, where you come from communism, but capitalism really has taken. Even though you don't want to say that, but when you watch it, you don't even know that's what you're getting till like 2 days later. You're like, did she really just put that on? It's called Ascension, and it's on Paramount Plus. The other one we have is a Queen of Basketball, and then another one called When We Were Bullies, which is going to HBO on March 30th. And it's about this a filmmaker out of San Francisco is making another movie, and he runs into someone that he knew in 5th grade, and they start to remember that kid that was, that was bullied. And then this film is made about where they try to search out the teacher and other kids that were in their 5th grade class. And what they all did as kids back then to this poor boy. So it's really strong. Then we have another film that we got the nomination for, but they don't have us on this part of the journey. And so, and it's amazing though. I can't take away from the film. Writing with Fire. I don't know when it's going to be on PBS, and it's about these women in India. They're Dalit is where they come from, and they're the lowest caste. There, but they decided they're not getting news and information. They made their own media company, and they're pushing it out to all the people that are like them. The government hates them, men hate them because it's all women. Amazing film. This one woman is the first 5 minutes just like blows you away, and then you meet them, and it's like against all odds, against all adversity, these women are just like killing it. So anyway, that's what gets me up in the morning. Also, I get to see Bruce, who I've known like all his life. I used to hang out with his uncle when we were in high school. I know his mom really well. Yeah. They lived across the street from my sister, so we're all like family, right? So it's
Soul Vikes. I wish I went to Edison. Right? You all got to. I hear stories about my uncles, which we probably shouldn't put out into the world.
Too, back then, the community of South Stockton is so vibrant and so strong because every parent could be your parent there. It was one of those communities.
For good or bad, every parent was your parent.
It was mostly Black, Asian, Latino, and a little bit of white folks that were there. But it was this community. And I know folks, you meet people who, when you date or marry somebody from that part of town, you hear too many stories about South Stockton. They're like, awesome. Not that again. But it's just... it's what shaped us, and it shaped us a lot. And
all right, we gotta wrap us up to make sure that we stay with. This is great.
That was all aside.
No, this is awesome.
You guys, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. All right, Laura, what do you got going on? Anything interesting you want to let folks know about? What's happening in your part of the world? You want to let folks know about?
I worked with a bunch of other Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders at Vanderbilt University, and Helen Zia is going to come talk to us and meet with a bunch of students. And I was like, this is like a living legend of Asian American civil rights activism and journalism and queerness. So you all need to be here. And so I'm super excited.
So follow Laura at Vanderbilt Divinity School on Instagram. Get to see those.
When is she coming?
She is coming Thursday, March 24th.
Awesome.
And this is the 40th anniversary of his death.
Yeah.
Vincent Chin's murder. So it's like, this is the big year. Mm-hmm. The Academy restored the film, and they're going to do something at the Academy.
Great.
Awesome.
Not the Academy Awards, but they'll screen it here at the Academy Museum, I think.
Awesome.
That's really great.
Micky, what do you got going on? What's happening?
I'm going to follow David's advice and move in silence while I work on my shit. So there's some things brewing, but I'm moving in silence right now.
That's awesome. Well, and for me, some of you are by the time you hear this, you'll know that I'm moving on from the congregation I'm serving, and everybody can ask me what I'm going to do next, but I have absolutely no idea.
Yay!
I'm going to rest. I'm going to it's an interesting thing when we tell people to choose you and choose your health and take care of yourself, and overwhelmingly people are supporting that decision. But then you get those moments like, oh, we actually didn't mean it.
No, God no.
Mean it. You gotta mean it.
You gotta mean it. So we are shifting, moving, a lot of good stuff, and I love chaos a little bit, so I will thrive and rest a little bit in that, and then I'm going to sleep till September, and then hang out. So everybody, thanks for being here. We're going to put all of the mentions of the shows, the documentaries will get put in the show notes. I know we're all going to go out and look, and I'm always more apt to watch the Oscars now, or at least track the Oscars, because I know David. Like, I'm like always, and our family is super like, we know that guy, right? We're always like trying to name drop. It doesn't get us much though, David. I will say that
it will, and it won't. And it's okay.
Like the coffee person's like, I don't know David, man. I don't know him. Why would I give you coffee for free? What's going on? I don't. Yeah. What do you quit saying his name? Yeah.
I don't even get that. So there you go.
They can't even. Mr. McDonald, your coffee is ready. Yes.
Oh God.
All right, all. Again, thank you for being here. We will see you our next episode. We have some couple of guests lined up. This has been great, David. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Thanks, David.
Laura,
having me.
Thanks for being here as well. All right.
So good to meet you.
David.
See you all.
So good to meet you.
BRC and Friends was produced, written, and recorded by Bruce Reyes-Chow with zero help from his dogs Vespa or Bernie. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to BRC and Friends wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please follow, like, tag, and share on all the platforms via BRC and Friends or B Reyes-Chow. Thanks for listening to BRC and Friends.